is going.
bro.
He just gets a napkin and folds it and starts pouring cocaine
I told
in.
you,
Like,
I
we're gonna have a wild.
This might be the one that
This might be the
You're
one.
gonna have to shut me up. You're gonna have to
All
shut
right.
me up.
Okay. So
we don't do that around here.
here we have our character
Moving
broadsheets.
myself.
We make references to characters past and have invited characters from previous campaigns into the current runs, but with no context, the legends that many of these characters became would be lost to time. So I wanted to take some time to talk to each player about a character that they played to keep the legends alive and to possibly hold their memories hostage, so that way I can leverage them against the fresh faces of our adventures. This character, though, has set a tone for a group dynamic. I don't know how much more I can understate the importance of Fortis as far as our gaming group goes. So we already covered like your first like go into the D&D group with my campaign 1 and so on and so forth. With Fortis, you were coming into Kyle's campaign at the same time that all of us did. We all made our characters together. We had a proper session 0. We were all in it together.
Yeah, because this was not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this wasn't that much after your campaign.
It was about a year after you came in, give or take.
Yeah.
So this was actually when my campaign ended slightly over a year from when it had actually started, and this was the beginning of the year like revolution that we kind of did, right?
Yeah.
And so this was fresh into Kyle's, like, for all intent and purposes, not his first campaign, but his longest one, and possibly his first one that, because the other ones were, anyways. So, Fortis was a paladin. Do you remember what type of paladin he was? Like what his subclass was? Do you still have his character sheet or anything like that?
It might still be on D&D Beyond.
I think he was the Oath of Heroism back when that was a thing.
Yeah.
Or whatever the published Mythic Odysseys of Theros was, because he was basically supposed to be Hercules.
Yeah, I don't
like,
see it.
Not the concept that you made. Let me see if I can pull it up, because this fucking character right now. Let's see. Yes.
Let me know when you're ready for me to start talking. Okay. Boy, I have a lot.
Fortis Wardenshield was an. Oh, that's right. You changed him to an Oathbreaker. We'll get into that. We'll get into that because that's the one right there. That's the one that is going to be for all of the marbles. So the World of Athru, Kyle's campaign, Fortis Wardenshield, you start him off as a paladin. What was his backstory or like his history or whatever? Because I think it might have come up like this much, and then it just sort of things happened.
So I do remember. I still remember. Before this, what I wanted him to be is basically, Hercules, with kind of like the naivety of Goku, where he's gonna do the right thing, but he doesn't exactly is aware of consequences, right? But basically, his parents were heroes. Paladins knew them. They were good at their job, and he wanted to be just like them. Because I remember when we started the campaign, he was going through all of us when we were younger, and then he put us into present day. So I basically want him to become like he is a hero in his own beliefs. Like he wants to do the right thing.
He was also a prodigy.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to fucking remember for the life of me what his original subclass was. I'm fairly positive it was that. Let me just take a quick peek.
I remember it was like
so it turned into the Oath of Glory, but
Yeah.
back before it was the Oath of Heroism. So it was the Oath of Heroism, which turns into when WotC publishes Mythic Odysseys of Theros, it becomes Oath of Glory Paladin, which is a very potent subclass, right, in its own right.
Mhm.
Tell me, okay, so you've kind of given me his personality, which was like a powerhouse Goku. If
Yeah.
Goku had plate mail and a fucking sword and shield,
Yep.
what would you say his quirk would be? Like naivete is his personality, but what is
Yeah.
something that like you kind of injected to give him just a little bit of flavor on top of that? Because he definitely wasn't vanilla. I think he was like he kind of had a tendency to be a bit of like okay with getting into trouble, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
Basically, he was very thick-headed a lot of times, where he did know they probably shouldn't been doing this, but he still believed like I had to do this because this is the right thing to do, and I'm gonna fucking do it. But that was the thing, is like I honestly like the whole Fortis thing in the beginning, because I thought I knew what I was trying to do, but I kept, I guess for some reason, second that. I'm like, do I want to do this? Do I want to, or do I want to do this? So I did feel a lot of like back and forth with the character when I was playing him.
It definitely kind of came out. He didn't act like a conflicted character, but you definitely were making moves that he was a conflicted person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
So all right. We played, I think, for what, like 2 months? So like 8 sessions, I want to say. Like just trying to kind of like figure out like the whole getting the puppy legs out from underneath us and whatnot.
Yeah.
Before the event. So Fortis as an Oath of Glory paladin, he had a bit of a, but like why, right? Okay, so I gotta try to, how do I put this? Fortis as an Oath of Glory paladin, like his whole thing was being a hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the day that he lost his powers. How do you remember? I remember it a specific way. So we were in a village that was being.
Oh my god, that's right. Oh no.
We were in a village that was being like attacked by marauders or something like that.
Yeah.
And we went to go. So
it was someone, we were protecting someone, we were with a civilian, and they got like knocked out or something, and I was trying to wake him up and accidentally killed him.
There it is. So the city, or the town, the village, if you will, was being attacked by marauders, and one of the things we had to like basically breach and clear this 2-story house. And I distinctly remember there were a few people that were inside of the house that were non-combatants, we'll call them. And one of them got so scared that he fainted. And Fortis wanted to wake him up.
Yep.
With his boot. And I distinctly remember there was 1, a 2, and Kyle went, I don't think you're gonna make it without biting. And you were like, yeah, I'll kick him, why not? And immediately, boom, gone were the powers, lost was the Fortis.
Yep.
So, okay, without going off on too much of a tangent, what followed in this campaign was 6 months of a paladin that couldn't even do what a fighter did. How was that? Only being like, now there were clues and whatnot. I think you had some homework that was given to you to like, hey, read up on this stuff, because this is going to incorporate a lot of like these visions of these people and yada yada yada. like, what was it like going through the shoes of, like, you've just been kneecapped effectively by yourself for 6 months?
Yeah.
That has to be frustrating, right?
So
Like, yeah,
Oh, man.
walk me through that process.
So, God, it's funny because with John Ryder, I honestly remember, but I also don't remember. I felt like a goddamn movie
You're in a
star,
dream.
just high on coke the entire
Yeah.
time. I'm like, man, I
fever
remember, but
dream.
I don't remember. And then in this one, I came back for a second movie, and I'm like, I wasn't too fucked up. So I still remember everything, and I used to remember like, why did I do that? Why did I murder that man? Because honestly, I remember doing the act. I was like, yeah, sure, I wake him up, and then remember as soon as I told him, yeah, I wake him up. I'm like, wait a second, who am I doing this to again? And like, oh,
And
like honestly, half that time it just felt so wild because there was just I always felt like there was just too much going on. Every time we did the campaign where there was just like so much happening at once, I was trying to like okay, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, we're doing this, we're being this person.
I mean, to be fair, there was always like multiple tiers of things going on.
I mean, Christ, didn't we change stories midway? Because we were doing the whole thing with what was the name? Belior. And
It was
then
Belior.
and then we basically like
Halfway
what about
through,
this story?
we
Yeah.
said, "Fuck that. We don't like him anymore," and we got a new patron. But that's
But yeah, I remember
yeah.
after losing my powers, I'm just kind of scrolling through the character sheet. I'm like, not a lot I can do.
Yeah,
Not a
You
lot I
basically
can do.
were reduced to like attack. Pretty
And
much.
it felt, and I always, I'm not gonna lie to you, I felt cut because every time it was my turn on a fight, I'm like, what do you want to do? I go for it with my sword. Okay, Josh, what do you want to do? I'm gonna cast a spirit bomb with a fucking with a little spin here, and then just
With the
do that.
old
So I'm
razzle
like,
dazzle jazz fingers.
I'm gonna razzle dazzle and then pull it back and then the infinity loop. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm like,
All right, Bruno, what are you
I
gonna do?
hit him with my shield.
Guess I go
That's
up
all
and
I
attack,
can
yeah.
do.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. So, okay,
People do the Sharingan and the Rasengans and all that shit. I'm like,
so
I
what
flip
we
them off.
were what we were told, those of us in the know, was that you had been given some homework to look over, which was regarding the story of your godly patron at the time, because in
Yeah.
Kyle's world, patron or gods give paladins their powers, right?
Yeah.
And so we were told that you were supposed to like look up some homework for, it wasn't Bane, it was Helm, I think was your I think it was Helm was like your guys like patron who granted you the powers or whatever. And that doesn't sound right. Anyways, and so your character ended up being basically visited by a god over and over again, and you were being thrown into these weird like dream sequences where you were making choices, right? Which
Yeah.
culminates ultimately in you making a choice to either repent and get back into the good graces of your former godly patron,
Yeah.
or to say, actually, I'll go with this one, which would have been basically the anathema of your initial godly patron,
I remember that. I
Or-
remember being given those choices.
or to say, fuck all of this, I'm going to go my own way. Now, let me paint a picture for you. Fortis was falling off of...
The cliff,
Uh-oh.
I think, yeah.
One sec.
No, take it back.
Okay, I don't know who keeps bringing these babies into our house, but we got rid of another one. So,
Yeah, well, I can give you plenty of reasons, but go on.
yeah, right. So, let me paint you a picture. Fortis in front of a god
Mm-hmm.
gets ejected off of a cliff and you have two choices at the time. One was to ask for repentance, and one was to give in. So, do you remember making that choice? Do you remember the stressful situation he gave you?
It was very
put a
stressful.
timer down.
He
It was
put
like
a timer.
30 seconds.
Yep. So,
And
I still remember. I still remember because I saw those two choices, and I was honestly like, I can go back to what it was and continue what I was doing. Or out of metagame, I'm like, this also sounds cool. This is something I think I would like to try, but does it fit what fucking Fortis is trying to do right now? And I'm like trying to juggle, and he's giving me this timer. I'm like, okay. And then honestly, at the time, for a second, I was gonna go for the new route, but then I'm like, no, okay, I'm just gonna go back to normal. Give it a second chance. Do what's right one more time, and then
literally
so
2 seconds, he was
2
like, or
seconds.
you can always say fuck all of this and go Oathbreaker. And you went with Oathbreaker.
Because dude, I was so like, and then
Stressed
I
out.
heard something else going, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then right as I said that, I'm like, oh fuck. I immediately regretted that action, and I was too proud to ask him, like, can we wind back? Just I'll suck your dick right now.
You
but
have
can
to
we
look right.
rewrite
You have to
that?
look right at Daniel in the eyes and go, "Can we retcon this?" So, so,
I'm not gonna forgive you for that.
unbeknownst to you, I think at the time, or maybe you knew, or maybe the thought never crossed your mind. We already had an Oathbreaker paladin in the
I
party.
forget that at that second, at that split.
Understandably, when you're stressed out, then you get given this
I
branch.
remember, like, what was it? Cinder, right?
Cinder was
like,
an Oathbreaker already
He
from the
was a
beginning.
fucking Oathbreaker already. Oh.
And so you took the lifeline. From that point forward, Fortis still, I believe, was kind of muted in his powers. I think he had like some wraps that would like hurt you in order to use your
Basically, they gave me my abilities, but they
in a limited capacity.
Yeah.
And they would like hurt you narratively. I don't
Mhm.
think they actually did any mechanical damage, but they would like hurt you narratively, and you
Yeah.
could only ever use them in combat. It was a
Mhm.
very interesting mechanic. So you ended up swapping. I don't think you ever multi-classed anything with Fortis, right? I think you were just straight up Paladin the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Level 9. We didn't even get to level 10. But that's neither here nor there. So when you made Fortis, did you have more of a like, okay, with John, first character, you're like, I don't know what to expect. I'm just gonna make a pirate and then we'll figure out from there, right? With Fortis, you had time to kind of put a little bit more thought into it, obviously with your backstory of your parents being heroes and you're kind of like supposed to be the golden boy and you know, shit like that, which he was incredibly potent, by the way, in combat. When he had his powers, he was incredibly potent. But did you have like a direction or a trajectory that he was supposed to go when you started the campaign?
Just, very broad. Like for Fortis, it was like, I'm gonna put him on this path, and then it's kind of the same thing with John, see where it takes me, but still with purpose and with the direction. Where like Fortis wanted to become a hero. He wanted to exceed everyone and his parents' expectations and become the Hercules thing, right? He wanted his fucking name in the goddamn stars, and he wanted everyone to know who it was.
Just like
He wanted us. He wanted the music to kick in the background.
He wanted all the royalties.
He just didn't have Danny DeVito, and he never got that action figure. They never made it. They never turned him into an action figure. Why did we never
make a Danny DeVito character? Actually, somebody should have workshopped it where they made a fucking satyr who was like your hype man or your trainer. And now, in my head, if you ever play, never mind. We'll get to that.
Oh, no,
so
we'll get to that. Don't worry, I'm with you there. But
so
that was what I wanted for Fortis. Like he needed to become a hero, and he either was gonna do it the stereotypical, yeah, you're a hero because you did this, or he would have become a hero, I guess the proper way of
Right.
he would have basically grown up. He would have seen like what really makes a hero.
Right.
Whether he really learns or doesn't, he becomes a
find
hero
out.
regardless. Yeah.
I honestly think that may very well be the best approach to making a character in tabletop roleplay. If you set a broad goal with no expectations of how to get there, I think that very much so, just as a side note, I think that very much so leaves your character open to be able to take branching paths instead of rigidly adhering to this is the direction that my character has to go because this is the only way that I can reconcile my character. Because tabletop is collaborative, right? Like if it weren't for if it weren't for Saul, Kaioken would have never grabbed the bullywug and tried to squish him. If it weren't for, you know what I mean? Like if it weren't for John Ryder, then Kaioken would have never. Okay, this is starting to sound like Kaioken's just the most impressionable person, but if it weren't for these other characters, then this character would not have done X, Y, or Z. But I definitely think that you keep the right approach when you make those characters with a very broad, like, here's my end goal. How I get there, I don't know. So Fortis's story takes that turn for the worse. Then you spend 6 months paying for it, and then you finally get somewhat of your powers back. So you're back in the business, and you start going off doing the thing. Well, let's talk about the campaign end.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that the campaign ended, when we were going through,
which I wasn't even part of. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the campaign ended with us having to go through a forest to try to find the bad guys, or to try to find, basically to try to find these bad guys to stop them. There was a Fey forest. We had to do a whole bunch of stuff. We ended up with this big dragon fight, and I don't remember. Fortis was there for that, right, Josh?
Dragons fight.
Fortis was in that fight, right? So effectively, Fortis was frozen in time for all of eternity. That's where we last saw Fortis. Now, as we've established with my campaign and Josh's campaign, and even to a certain extent Kyle's campaign, headcanon versus campaign canon does not have to align. For instance, most of our characters are in Josh's campaign world, the far reaches. You can find them. You just have to search the galaxy. In my campaign, most of our characters are there because, why not? You just have to find them in the galaxy. And so in your headcanon for Fortis, if you scrubbed away that whole ending where he was basically cast in carbonite, how would his story have ended? Or like how does his story end? Is like, I know he had the goal of becoming a hero, but if you had to write the novel of Fortis's life to its completion, where does it end? Does it end with him and a gilded statue in the center of a city town square like Oob? Or
funny
like
enough,
Goku?
oh my god, I never told you this, but because I did a lot of things, so I was thinking like, I mean, what would have wanted his story to end? Would have wanted him like, he self-sacrifices and becomes a hero in the afterlife or whatever, or does he somehow become a paladin again, or everything? But then the one I kept entertaining was basically he becomes Phil. He learned through all of the mistakes that he has made. He never became a hero the way he wanted to. So he finds someone. He meets this young child, and trains that person to become a great hero. Basically, he becomes a trainer, and he's like, I couldn't do this, but maybe you can, and I didn't have guidance.
So, I'll let you know what you just said totally just gave me goosebumps, because I think that would be an amazing character to play as the progeny of Fortis Wardenshield. Like, have him be this sort of like father figure or role model figure for whatever this other person that ends up playing. So that being said, like I asked you before with John, Fortis did a whole lot of stuff, right? Now, we know one way that it could have ended, much like the movie Clue. That's how it could have ended. We know how maybe this is how it might end, but what is something in between the ending and where you left off with Fortis that you would have wanted to see? An adventure plot, like an elevator pitch of that? Would it be like getting his powers back? Would it be developing new powers? Would it be finding this progeny to like train? Like, what is an adventure for Fortis that lives in your head?
I mean, it would have been that. That was always like, okay, how would I find this progeny? Would it be like he secludes himself in an island and tries to, for some reason, always harass these women around? Or kind of like a Master Roshi, where he kind of just, he's secluded. He has his own little property. Doesn't really do much, but he still has dreams.
Or is it that he stays on an island that's filled with non-binary people that try to train him by chasing him, much like a Sanji? No, I'm kidding.
I was always stuck between, basically he's a hermit, and this progeny hears one like, hey, this fucking crazy old coot used to be a paladin. Maybe he knows how to fight. Maybe you can learn from this guy.
Oh, I wonder if they mean old Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, old crazy Ben. Yeah, sure, go see it. Watch out, though. He's fucking crazy. He once killed a guy trying to wake him up.
That's actually really, really interesting. Like, I think that would be a good. I think it would be a good fit for Fortis.
It was either that or he still tries to become a hero and then at some point fails, but it's still kind of like met that same road of like, he's a hermit. He unfortunately lost that life. He never really got what he wanted, so he finds a second chance through this kid and becomes a better person for it.
Isn't that like Conan the Barbarian too? Conan the warrior, whatever. Anyways, that I would love to see a slightly sadder but more mature Fortis trying to wrangle some kid, like, because I remember him being like 6'9", built like a brick shit house, didn't really wear armor. He was very much so like, well, I mean, I think he wore armor, but he was very much so like Hercules. And so I'm envisioning this sort of like the Rock Hercules, like training someone else. And so
because when I had him with Hermit, basically he's like, well, not at the time, but when I saw the movie, I'm like, I would like him to be basically Luke from Last Jedi. But basically, like, he's cranky. He knows trying to achieve that status is not easy. And he has so many regrets. Like, I wish I would have taken that right. He hates just doing things. He's just getting by. He's just basically waiting for that.
Just a quick dive into the mind of Fortis. There is a weird point in the campaign where we do have the tournament arc, right? So in a way, he did definitely get glory because we won. Now,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Fortis died during that, right? During the last fight, but still, we were able to, using Rill as like the final knockout or whatever, right? We still won the competition, and we actually like he did kind of gain this sort of glory, like as the folk hero of like of this. But I do like the notion of him still being kind of tragic, because you played him as so kind of wholesome in a way, to
he
where
was
it's
stoic, but he still wasn't like a piece of shit guy who was trying to like,
Right.
yeah, I want money, fame, and all this shit.
yeah. But like he did it in a way that was, like you said, naive, right?
Mhm.
So for me personally, the maturing, like his whole maturity arc of like, I had everything. We saved that village, by the way. I don't know if you remember that. That fighting was done when you woke that guy up by kicking him to death. Like, crushing his chest. The fighting was over. And then he went and took it too far. And then, as many heroes, he lived long enough to see himself become the villain. Boom. Only to take the long road of building himself back up into this sort of like, oh, now he's a champion of this Coliseum. And then post-championship, like Fortis, I would very much so like to see that again. So that being said, if you had...
No, I'm still listening.
Sorry.
Very loud. I can hear you. I'm still in the room.
If you had a chance to... What am I thinking of? If you had a chance to play Fortis again, would you play Fortis? Or do you think that your time playing Fortis is over?
In like the same thing as John, where I made him. I made the character. I have the responsibility, if like given the chance, like I had to see the story really end, and especially with that story I had for him, I would like to kind of like build a road towards that. I want to give him, that you get one more shot. Don't fuck it up. If you do, that's it. And give him one more shot at fulfilling something meaningful.
Well, then to that end, I do have a fun little tidbit for you, because in my canon, there's a little bit of a safe haven for those characters that were trapped outside of time, in the form of a specific character that made it out before all of that. So, if you ever do want to play him in my campaign, there's a particular Shadar Kai that made it out, who may have been able to extract people from this sort of demi-plane canonically in my world. So if you ever want to play him again, he exists, and you can totally play him, or you can have him be another character's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that on the table, that was that's the most pivotal character in our group for a lot of reasons. We found out a lot about ourselves as a group, because a lot of us were at first like, what the fuck, Bruno? Why would you lose your fucking your paladin powers doing that? And then when it came time for you to get them back, we were all like, what the fuck? Why would you give him the option to do that?
Yeah.
Like,
I can't blame him, because I still blame myself, because I'm like, damn it, I should have just... Well, same thing. I should have like really paid attention and going like, before I kick this guy, what is he?
Yeah.
He's not a stone guy, is he?
Is he just like a regular crazy old man? Oh, maybe I shouldn't. But I think that no matter what, the road to glory is paved in regret. And I think that for Fortis as a person, I think that should always stay in his backstory. I got to this point, I made the worst mistake possible by killing an innocent person in a fit of brash, non-thinking. I think the character himself, but that's me. That's me imprinting on you. So I think that with that, one thing to take away from Fortis as a character, because he really did It's interesting because in a meta game standpoint, he made a huge impact on all of us. So in a way, he kind of is a hero because we all grew as a group based off of what happened to Fortis in those days. I would love to see him in the campaign again. Probably not in my meat grinder campaign, but you know, or maybe you could have Josh play him.